Yo, what is going on, everyone? My name is Nick, or the Notorious Fantasy. And in today's video, I'm bringing you guys a 12-team PPR mock draft from the 5th overall spot on Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard. In this video, we are going to be talking about all of my picks as well as the picks going around me, so you guys can get a general feel about how I feel about the draft going around me, as well as I feel about my own picks. So in this mock draft, the roster positions are 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wideouts, a tight end, flex, kicker, defense, and 6 bench spots. In today's video, we are going to be drafting up against ESPN's average draft position. Now, before I get into this 12-team Pick 5 mock draft, I'd like to ask if you guys do end up enjoying at any point in this video to please click that subscribe button down below. It's free. I put out content every single day to help you guys win that 2020 Fantasy Football Championship. We're almost there. It's almost Thursday. We are going to be putting out so much content on a week basis from week 1 all the way to week 17 to help you guys lift that fantasy football trophy and give that thing a nice, beautiful kiss when we all win it all. So let's get into the video. 12-team PPR mock draft from the 5th overall spot on Fantasy Pros Draft Wizard. Now, the 5 spot I prefer much more than the first 4 picks of the draft, personally, because I believe that in the first 4 picks, it's not very likely that on the turnaround in the draft, you are going to be likely to get a running back in the second round. I personally believe the best draft philosophy in fantasy football is to get 2 running backs in the first 2 rounds. Now, obviously, this is not 100% possible and not 100% something you need to go into the draft with it in your mind, because then you're going to reach at running back. Say we draft someone here, and in the second round, Todd Gurley is the only good running back available in the second round, or the best available on the screen. I'm not fucking drafting Todd Gurley in the second round, so you have to understand that. You want to draft based on value. Todd Gurley's not worth the second round pick, so you draft a wide receiver, or you draft a tight end in the second round. It's as simple as that. You want to make sure that you don't lock yourself into one mindset before the draft, because then you are going to be reaching just to make sure that you check off the boxes in your head that you got a running back in X round or a tight end in X round. So try to keep an open mind. So the first few picks of the draft went as follows. We see Christian McCaffrey come off the board, followed by Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott, and then Mr. Dalvin Cook. So now it is our pick here. Nothing too out of the ordinary. Typically, you see Alvin Kamara go at the 104. It's typically not Dalvin Cook, but with concerns of Alvin Kamara potentially being traded or something, people are moving back on Alvin Kamara, and it's entirely possible that he would be available at the 105. The people I've seen go ahead of Kamara, it's either Cook or it's going to be Derrick Henry in every single league. Otherwise, you're typically going to see Kamara because someone's going to bite the bullet. I personally, in my opinion, do not believe that Alvin Kamara is going to get traded. I don't believe he's going to get shipped off. I don't believe anything happens to Alvin Kamara. I think they get the deal done. I think they pay him because guess what? The NFL football team, the New Orleans Saints, has 1 year to win this bitch. 1 year to win the Super Bowl, because Drew Brees is going to do what we call retirement. He is going to get out of there. They had to yank him back in. They had to like open up the van, open the door, put a mask on him, cover him with a garbage bag, and throw him into the car just to get him to come back this season. So you think they're going to let Alvin Kamara go the season they have to win? Why would that happen? So I'm all in on Alvin Kamara, knock on wood, for him being good to start off the season. So I'm going to draft him here. If he's not here, I'm drafting either Derrick Henry or I'm drafting Joe Mixon. I like Joe Mixon the most of the two, but he's the biggest risk. If you want to be safe, you go with Derrick Henry. I think Alvin Kamara is going to be fine, so I'll happily draft him there at the 105. So obviously after that, we're going to see a bunch of running backs come off the board. The first 2 rounds of the draft are just dominated by the running back position. After we see, let's go with Alvin Kamara, his teammate came off the board in Michael Thomas, followed by Derrick Henry, DeAndre Hopkins, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Nick Chubb, Miles Sanders, and Patrick Mahomes to close out the first round. Do not be the guy that drafts Pat Mahomes in the first 3 rounds of the draft. In the 4th round, go ahead and do it. In the first round, this guy's running back is going to be so god-awful. Both of his running backs, because he went with Pat Mahomes and Devontae Adams. The depth at the team is going to be screwed even at wide receiver by missing out early, and now he's going to have to take one of those guys later that may have to start on his team instead of taking a quarterback later that could be just as good as Patrick Mahomes. Now, I won't argue about who's the better quarterback, Mahomes or Lamar Jackson, for fantasy football. They're 1A and they're 1B. I personally like Patrick Mahomes more, but I'm not going to go ahead and get into a war in the comment section about Patrick Mahomes versus Lamar Jackson. So the second round starts off with, like I said, Devontae Adams, followed by Josh Jacobs, Aaron Jones, Kenyon Drake, Tyreek Hill, Julio Jones, and then Lamar Jackson. Now, Lamar and Patrick Mahomes typically go in the second or the third round. You'd be very hard-pressed to see them fall out of the 4th round. In some leagues, they will obviously go much higher up in the draft due to how new the people are at fantasy football. People who are newer, people who aren't as experienced, they're not as sharp as you because you're watching this video. They think the quarterback's the most important position in the NFL, which it is. It's not the most important position in fantasy football. the running back is, so I'm not going to go ahead and draft a quarterback that early. So, interesting also, DeAndre Hopkins, the second wide receiver off the board. Now, that may happen in a lot of leagues because DeAndre Hopkins is that household name. He was the guy last season pretty much going as the number one wide receiver off the board. It was either him or Devontae Adams. Everyone was pretty wrong on it because Michael Thomas finished as the number one guy, but D-Hop was very good. But in Arizona, I just don't think he's worth a first-round pick. I don't think he's going to be a bust. I don't think he's going to finish outside of the top 10 at wide receiver. I just personally don't believe he's worthy of a first-round pick. So now it is our selection here. We've seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wide receivers come off the board. I'd say that is almost typical of drafts. Typically, you see 1 to 3 go in the first round, and then you typically see a couple go in the back half. And by the back half, I mean the start of the second round, due to the fact that people like to do this thing called the zero running back strategy. Now, this is the not the modified zero running back strategy of just going 2 wide receivers off the rip, since you can snag 2 guys of very good talent. I personally am more on the train of getting the 2 elite running backs in a row. So now looking at the board here, we're going to hide the drafted players so it's easier to see. It's Austin Eckler and it's Joe Mixon, and then it turns into kind of the shit show of a bunch of guys who definitely could be top 10 guys, but could completely bust right on your face, and you're going to be looking like Lana Rhodes. So to me, this is a pretty close decision. Now, I love Joe Mixon. 100% bought into him, and he's the pick, but I would not argue in any words that Austin Eckler couldn't be better than him. Austin Eckler could have over 2,000 combined yards because of how involved he is in the rushing game, as well as the pass-catching game, but I think Joe Mixon will be more involved in the pass-catching game this season. I'm going to buy into him with Mr. Heisman, Joe Burrow, and draft him here in the second round. I draft him in the first round, so to me, this is an absolute steal, but a lot of people's perception on Joe Mixon is that he's not very good, so don't be surprised if he falls there. Now, if he was not available, and if Mixon was not available, or Mixon and Eckler, I probably went ahead and drafted a wide receiver like Chris Godwin at that spot. So after we went ahead and went with Joe Mixon, Travis Kelce came off the board, followed by Austin Eckler, Chris Godwin, George Kittle, Al Robinson, Kenny Golladay, Mike Evans, and Adam Thielen. Now the 3rd, 4th, and 5th round is where we are going to see a brigade of wide receivers fly off the board. The running backs go early. Now there's a lot of undecisiveness at the running back position, so people are going to fly out heavy hitters and just draft a zillion wide receivers in a row. Kelce and George Kittle go in the second round. You can pretty much swap those guys in certain drafts. People like Kelce better. Some drafters like Kittle better. To me, it's splitting hairs. Those are clearly the 2 best guys at the tight end position. So go ahead and draft either one of those in the 2nd or 3rd round. If you want to get them, that's the price you are going to have to pay. We see 4 wide receivers go in the initial 3rd round pick. So here, we're going to go back to the wide receiver well here. We already got our 2 running backs with by 6 and by 9. Very nice. So we don't really need any of these guys. Not trying to take a risk here. The risk would be in the 4th round if one of those running backs are there and I snag them. I'd rather get a safe guy at my wide receiver to really bolster my roster. So here, still available at wide receiver, according to Fantasy Pros, the top list is DJ Moore, Juju Smith-Schuster, Odell Beckham Jr., Bobby Woods, Amari Cooper, Cooper Kupp, and Calvin Ridley, all inside of Fantasy Pros Tier 3. Now I have these guys completely different. In my opinion, the best picks here are DJ Moore, Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, and Calvin Ridley, all guys I see with top 10 or top 12 potential. To me, the best pick available is DJ Moore of the Carolina Panthers. Last season, we saw DJ Moore put on an absolute clinic. I would not be surprised if he was the NFL's leader in receiving yards in 2020. I think Teddy Bridgewater is definitely an upper echelon of quarterback when compared to Kyle Allen. DJ Moore ate with Kyle Allen, and he did go with Cam Newton, so it doesn't really matter the quarterback for him, but I think an upgrade in Teddy Roosevelt will be very good for DJ Moore, so I like him this year, and I like him to improve that touchdown total of 4 this year to go even higher, and I think this system is going to be very, very smart in throwing the ball to DJ Moore a million times and throwing it to Christian McCaffrey. It's going to be the system that is ran in the Saints. I've talked about this before, where the Saints system is either hand it to Kamara, throw it to Kamara, or throw it to Michael Thomas. The Carolina Panthers, hand it to Christian McCaffrey, throw it to Christian McCaffrey, or throw it to Mr. DJ Moore. So now looking at the draft board after our pick, Amari Cooper, Juju Smith-Schuster, Zach Ertz, Odell Beckham Jr., Cortland Sutton, Calvin Ridley, and Mark Andrews close out the 3rd round. Very untypical there that Zach Ertz goes ahead of Mark Andrews. Now, Zach Ertz is the household name. He just is. Mark Andrews came onto the scene last year in flying colors. The guy absolutely balled out. I like him way more than Zach Ertz. I think, Mark Andrews has number 1 potential, like the number 1 tight end potential. I just don't think Zach Ertz has that. With that said, though, don't be surprised if Ertz goes ahead of Andrews in your draft. Like I said, the 3rd round just so heavily dominated by wide receiver. 10 of the picks were wide receivers. The other 2 were tight ends. You're likely not going to see Andrews fall out of around the end of the 3rd round or the beginning of the 4th round, and Ertz is more of a 4th round pick, but he goes in the 3rd round. in this simulation. The 4th round begins with running back Chris Carson of the Seattle Seahawks, followed by his teammate Tyler Lockett, A.J. Brown, Cooper Kupp, and then Todd Gurley, Deshaun Watson, and David Johnson. So, quarterback Deshaun Watson is the 3rd quarterback off the board. Now, in some leagues, you're going to see Lamar and Pat Mahomes going like the 3rd and 4th round. And then for a while, there's just a lull. No one's really going. And then it's Watson, or it's Dak, or it's Kyler, or it's Russ. One of those guys comes off the board a couple rounds later. In this league, we saw very soon after Lamar got picked, Deshaun got picked. So not all that surprising. That's something you have to look for in your draft. Now that Deshaun has been taken, the question is, do the other people bite on quarterback? Do they start a run here of guys like Dak, Kyler, all of that? Or is there a wait again? And then we see maybe an emergence in the 6th round of a zillion quarterbacks going in a row, which is probably what will end up happening. So now our team is comprised of Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon, and DJ Moore. We have 2 running backs and 1 wide receiver to start off this squad. Now I'm just going to go out and make this very obvious. If I don't draft Jonathan Taylor, right here, I don't think there's a way he comes back to me. I really don't think so. While there are running backs ranked ahead of him on there, I think Jonathan Taylor, out of these guys, most likely to stay healthy and most likely to finish as a top 12 running back. Jonathan Taylor behind the best offensive line in the NFL, with a quarterback in Phillip Rivers who loves to dump the ball off and a team that likes to run the damn ball. I think Jonathan Taylor takes the job a couple weeks in. Week 1, they have a very, very easy matchup up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, where we are going to see people take victory laps on Jonathan Taylor or on Marlon Mack, or maybe on both. Because Marlon Mack might just bumfuck the defense, run for like 150 yards, because he does really good against the Jacksonville Jaguars. That's entirely possible, and Jonathan Taylor kind of looks like shit. Or they both do good, or just Jonathan Taylor does good. In my opinion, I probably would wait on starting Jonathan Taylor, maybe not throw him out there week 1, throw someone else in your flex, unless you have to play him. And then the next couple of weeks after he really starts getting a lot of touches over Mack, then you start to start him. But this matchup does look kind of juicy. I may be tempted into it, but you're drafting for the whole season. And for the whole season, I think Jonathan Taylor, once he takes the reins, is going to potentially be a top 12 running back in fantasy football. And we could potentially secure 3 top 12 running backs on the team with Kamara, Mixon, and John O'God Taylor to start off our roster. So after we went with Jonathan Taylor, Le'Veon Bell came off the board, followed by Bobby Trees, James Conner, DJ Chark, Baby Chark, Terry McLaurin, Keenan Allen, and DK Metcalf. So maybe Jonathan Taylor may have fallen to us. Maybe. But I didn't want to take that risk. I wanted to get my guy, so I went out there and got him. I don't think it's a reach, though. 4th round, very typical for Jonathan Taylor. So now we got to hop onto the wide receiver train here. And it could have been a mistake because the wide receivers we could have gotten here that we missed out on are guys I really like a lot. I love Robert Woods, I love DJ Chark, and I love Terry McLaurin. Those are all guys I could see with very excellent seasons. So it is disappointing that I missed out on him. So my wide receiver might be a bit suspect here. So we might just pivot and go running back or go tight end if I don't feel ultra confident in it. And I really don't. I just really don't. I don't love Devontae Parker. I'm a Dolphins fan. I'm wearing a Dolphins hat. Dan Marino's hanging up behind me. Not a big fan of Devontae Parker. Basically, his schedule for the first 4 or 5 weeks is going to be very hard for him. And you want to win your first 5 weeks of the season, right? You want to win those first 5 games. So it is worrisome to draft him. If we look at his schedule, New England, Buffalo, Jacksonville, Seattle, San Francisco. So Jacksonville, not too hard. But the other opponents right there, that's 4 hard matchups out of 5. I'm staying away from that. T.Y. Hilton, I made a video yesterday about guys I'm not fucking drafting, guys to not draft. T.Y. Hilton's on there. He's been injured 2 years in a row. I'm not confident in him. Now, if I was to draft someone here in the 5th round, it would probably be Stefan Diggs. I think Stefan Diggs has a lot of opportunity this year in Buffalo to be very good. Now, I have Boyd ranked ahead of him, but I don't think Boyd will go in the 5th round in between my picks. So I think I might be able to get him. So I'm going to go with Diggs here. I like Diggs a lot for the Buffalo Bills. I think that Diggs is going to have a great season. I think Josh Allen has a great season. I think he's a very safe player. I don't see him potentially being a top 12 guy, but I don't see him really finishing outside of being like a wide receiver too. So with that range of outcomes, I think Stefan Diggs is a very good pick here inside of the 5th round, and I will go with my main man, Stefan Diggs, to butt-fuck the Jets week 1 at least, and then the whole season to play great, especially if Josh Allen can control that cannon of an arm. We could see an outstanding season from Stefan Diggs, and we've seen Stefan Diggs have excellent seasons in the past. Not Stefan Diggs. We have seen Stefan Diggs do good in the past, but we've also seen Josh Allen throw to wide receivers in the past that aren't or anywhere near as talented as Mr. Stefan Diggs be very good in fantasy football, i.e. Robert Foster, i.e. John Brown. So, after we went with Stefan Diggs, Melvin Gordon came off the board, followed by Darren Waller, Dakota Prescott, Kyler Murray, T.Y. Hilton, Jarvis Landry, Devin Singletary, Devontae Parker, Evan Ingram, Tom Brady, A.J. Green, Cam Akers, Leonard Fournette, and Hollywood Brown. So we did see after Deshaun a run of quarterbacks. 4 quarterbacks came after that. Russ, Dak, Kyler, and Tom Brady. The love for Tom Brady is so high in these drafts. I always see him go much higher than Josh Allen and Matt Ryan, which to me just makes no sense at all. But now it is our turn to make our picks. We already have 2 wide receivers. We got 3 running backs, and we might want to just hop back onto the wide receiver train here and then go on the running backs because I don't love Mark Ingram at all. I would actually categorize him as a guy I'm not drafting at all. A guy that I'm really just going to be fading due to the fact that last year his stats weren't all that good. He's not a good pass-catching running back, but he scored a lot of touchdowns, and I suspect the touchdown total goes back down to earth, and I expect Mark Ingram's point total goes back down to earth, and he's not very good this season. Sure, I think he's a good player. I just don't think he's going to be great for fantasy football. So, with that said, Kareem Hunt could obviously be worthy of a pick here, but I'm going to go ahead and get my guy, Tyler, Boyd of the Cincinnati Bengals. I love Tyler Boyd. This situation is amazing. I know what some people might be thinking. Nick, you dumb motherfucker. You're drafting 2 guys on the Cincinnati Bengals. What are you doing? I'm going to do it anyways. I don't give a damn. I think Joe Burrow's going to be good. I think the line's going to be good, and I think Mixon's going to be good, and I think Tyler Boyd puts up not his first 1,000-yard season, not his second 1,000-yard season, but his third 1,000-yard season in a row. Eat a W like Jameis Winston. I love Tyler Boyd this season. I think he's going to be great, and he's better when A.J. Green's healthy. So right now it seems like A.J. Green might be healthy to go week 1. So if he stays for longer, that's great for Tyler Boyd. If he's gone, may be even better, even though in the past, what the past tells us is that Tyler Boyd is actually better when Mr. A.J. Green is healthy for the squad. So after we went ahead and drafted Mr. Tyler, Boyd, we obviously had some time to wait in between our pick, but it obviously simulates pretty fast. So after we went with Boyd, Michael Gallup came out the board, followed by Will Fuller, Josh Allen, Marky Mock, Ingram, Matt Ryan, Jameson Crowder, Julian Edelman, and Drew Brees. So all the quarterbacks are off the board. Who doesn't have one besides me? Team 1 has 1, Team 2 has 1, Team 3 has 1, Team 4 has 1, Team 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and the last team. So only one team does not have a quarterback besides myself. So I'm happily going to wait here since I don't really feel obligated to reach on a guy like Carson Wentz. That's something important to figure out in your draft, where the other guys have drafted players, so you can have a better idea of what you have to draft and if you can wait on a position or you have to dive in on a position, which is very significant, especially when talking quarterbacks and tight ends. So here, this is a no-brainer. I'm going to go ahead here and draft either Kareem Hunt or James White of the New England Patriots. So to me, this is really close. I think both these guys clearly in the same kind of set, not like set, but they're the same kind of player on their team. Kareem, the backup running back, obviously, with a lot of pass-catching opportunity in Cleveland, a team that's going to run the ball. New England, James White, running back of a team that's going to run the ball and is a pass-catching running back. Same situation here. Now, the difference is, do you want to go with the guy in Cleveland or do you want to go with the guy in New England? Now, Kareem, if Nick Chubb was to go down, legitimately is a top 5 running back in fantasy football, without a doubt in my mind, with Kevin Stefanski as the head coach with how much they're going to run the ball. James White, the running back one ahead of them, so fucking confusing. It's not going to be Lamar Miller because he got cut. Who's it going to be? Is it Damian Harris? Is it Sony Michel? I don't know, but I know James White is very good, so I'm going to go with James White. I like him slightly more than Kareem Hunt, but I will not argue with someone who would draft Kareem Hunt over James White because I can definitely see the argument, and in different leagues, I would definitely split it up. In one league, I draft White. The other league, I draft Kareem Hunt, since I think both those guys are going to have terrific seasons come 2020. So now I'm going to go ahead and move us to the top of the screen so you can see the draft board better here to make it easier on the eyes for you folks. So looking at the board, we can actually see that after we went with Mr. Tyler, Boyd, did we even draft him? I'm a dumbass. I don't even think we drafted him. We didn't even draft James White, guys. That's how stupid we are. We're going to go ahead and select James White here. Even though I thought I saw a bunch of stuff on the screen that we picked him, I guess we did not. So with James White, I really like this offensive system for him. We've seen him be a top 12 running back in the past. We've seen him be the guy. And Mr. Cam Newton does dump the ball off to the running back, so I'm not really concerned with the narrative that he doesn't do it because I've looked it up, and he dumped the ball off 200 total times in 2 seasons to Christian McCaffrey, so we can clearly do it. After we went ahead and drafted James White, Marvin Jones came out the board, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Cooks, Deontay Johnson, Sterling Shepard, Aaron Rodgers, Kareem Hunt closed out the 7th round. 8th round starts off with the worst pick of the draft with the San Francisco 49ers defense, followed by DeAndre Swift, Henry Ruggs, Christian Kirk, Raheem Mostert, David Montgomery, and Emmanuel Sanders of the New Orleans Saints. So to me, the reason why I don't like the 49ers defense is because I think if you're drafting a defense early, the same defense that's really good last year never ends up being the best defense again. Last year with the Bears, right? Everyone's talking them up. The Bears were worth an 8th round pick. Were they? Were they really? Because they fucking weren't. And it won't be the 49ers this year. Just draft one later. Stream the defensive position. I put out videos every week on which defense to start. So now we are going to head here and look for a running back or a wide receiver here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 running backs, and we have 3 wide receivers, so a pretty balanced approach. Now here, the question is, where will Antonio Gibson go in most drafts? I've seen drafts where this guy's going in the 5th round. But those are sharper leagues. In family, at home league, friends league, do people know about Antonio Gibson? To me, the range of Antonio Gibson, it's either going to be excelente. This guy is skull fucking defenses. He's getting touches out of the backfield, catching the ball, running out there as a wide receiver, or he's stuck in a hellhole of Washington, and he's bad, and he doesn't do anything. There's 2 ranges of outcomes. That's why I'm not drafting him in the 5th round, because I think the second outcome is possible. Here in the 8th round, I'd pull the trigger 100%. I would draft him here. Had he have not been available, probably would have just went with Jordan Howard or Phillip Lindsay of the Broncos, because I talked about in earlier today's video about how yesterday's video about how Melvin Gordon's not it, really, in my opinion. I don't think he's going to be very good this season, considering the coaches have been talking up Phillip Lindsay, how it's going to be a 50-50 split. Just like I've been saying all offseason, maybe old Nick was right. So after we went ahead and drafted Antonio Gibson, Ronald Jones came off the board, followed by CeeDee Lamb, John Brown, Tariq Cohen, J.K. Dobbins, Anthony Miller, Jerry Jeudy, and the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. So this 9th round selection is brought to you guys by my friends and my sponsor over at Manscaped.com. If you want to have the best looking balls you've ever seen, if you want to get out of the shower and look in the mirror and you're like, damn, those are some good looking balls, you want to know how you get that? Manscaped.com. Code Notorious at checkout for 20% off, as well as free shipping. You get ball deodorant. You get the Lawnmower 3.0. That thing is going to look beautiful down there. Make sure you get it. And it has anti-nicking technology. So when you're in the shower and you accidentally fucking stab yourself, it's not going to happen because you can't stab yourself. You're not going to be bleeding out your gooch. That's not going to happen. Code Notorious at checkout for 20% off. Sorry for slapping the mic, as well as free shipping. Make sure you guys check that out. So now we are going to go ahead and hop onto the running back and wide receiver train. Again, do not draft the Pittsburgh Steelers defense in the 9th round. Same thing goes with any defense ahead of that. So now we are in the 9th round. Quarterback's still looking mighty fine because, like I said, you could predict that this guy was not going to pull. Actually, he did pull the trigger. So I'm the only asshole without a quarterback, I believe. So I could just keep waiting. But someone will draft a backup quarterback. So you got to make sure you draft yours before they take their backup. So now we're going to hop back onto the wide receiver train. We're doing a little bit of a reach around, a little bit of a reachy poo here, and get Mecole Hardman of obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Super Bowl champions, the guy that could be the wide receiver 2 on one of the best offenses in the NFL, with a quarterback who could throw the ball deep down the field, with a wide receiver who's super fast. It is a match met in heaven for Mecole Hardman and Pat Mahomes, and I think this is the season where Hardman blows out the back of defenses and looks excelente, so I'll happily take him with my 9th round selection. After that, Golden Tate came off the board, followed by the Buffalo Bills defense, Phillip Lindsay, Kerryon Johnson, Rob Gronkowski, Baltimore Ravens defense, Preston Williams, Jordan Howard, Robbie Anderson, Matt Breida, Tyler Higbee, New England Patriots defense, Zach Moss, and Darius Slayton. Sadly, my boy Zach Moss came off the board, one of my favorite running backs, because I think Devin Singletary is a capital F-R-A-U-D. That spells fraud. Now we're going to go ahead and draft a tight end. Late round tight ends I like. I like Hurst. I would draft Henry here, even with the injury concerns. I like Gesicki. I like Cook. I like Goddard. I like Janu. I think Janu has top 5 potential, but my biggest pick here, Hayden Hurst, top 5 tight end of the Atlanta Falcons. They are the most pass-heavy team in the NFL, with an offensive coordinator who loves to throw the ball to a tight end, with a quarterback who has thrown the ball to the tight end in the past. Austin Hooper last year had almost 100 targets in 13 games. Hayden Hurst, pretty much the same player as Austin Hooper. So why not draft him? I don't understand it. I don't understand why he's going so late. I have him in every fucking league. I love Hayden Hurst. I will take Hayden Hurst to the grave with me because I love that man. I'm putting my stamp of approval on him. You guys know that if you've been here for a while. If you haven't been here for a while, please make sure you're still here. You're like 25 minutes in the video. Hopefully you've subscribed already because we have had an enjoyable time today making this video. So after we went ahead and drafted Hayden Hurst, Justin Jefferson came off the board, followed by Darrell Henderson, Hunter Henry, Mike Williams, and a run at running back, Latavius Murray, Tevin Coleman, Marlon Mack, and Alexander Madison. So look at that. A sharp computer. if you draft Dalvin Cook, you have to draft Alexander Mattison so that you have the insurance at the position. The reason why I don't like Dalvin Cook is because I don't like drafting Alexander Mattison later, and I don't like having a running back that I feel like I know for a fact is just going to get hurt. He's gotten hurt every year. So why would I believe that he's not going to get hurt? So now we're going to go ahead here and draft probably a running back here. I mean, we could go quarterback, but I'd rather just wait again, honestly. We already got our tight end. We don't need a backup tight end. So we're going to just hammer running back and wide receiver with these last 2 picks. Here we're going to go ahead and go wide receiver and snag Jalen Reagor. Now, it seems like he's going to miss a couple of weeks. That's the report, that he's going to miss 4 weeks. Maybe not 4 weeks of the season. He might miss like 3 weeks. But he could be worthy of a stash, potentially with a team that doesn't really have that many healthy wide receivers and are legitimately plagued with the injury bubonic plague or something. It's crazy how often those wide receivers get hurt there. Same with Carson Wentz. Shout out to him. So after Jalen Reagor, Jared Cook came off the board, followed by Deshaun Jackson, who week 1 is a lock. This guy blows out the back of defenses that he was on the team for. This is a revenge game against the Washington football team. Deshaun Jackson's going off. He always goes off week 1. And then he simmers down to plays like shit, so you ship him off after week 1. After Deshaun Jackson, Tony Pollard came out the board, followed by the Colts, the Bears, Duke Johnson, Curtis Samuel, Rock Armstead, Brashad Perryman, Sony Michel, Chris Thompson, Larry Fitz, Naheem Hines, and the Saints defense. Now I'm off of Rock Armstead. He's on the COVID IR. He's not going to play week 1. Just draft Chris Thompson or Devine Ozigbo later in the draft. So now it's time to go ahead and draft our quarterback here. We're going to go ahead and snag Carson Wentz of the Philadelphia Eagles. I do like him slightly more than Stafford, but I do like Stafford as well. I think Stafford's going to have an excellent season this year. But we got Carson Wentz late, who definitely is being heavily slept on due to the fact that he always gets hurt, which is why I typically fade players. But with Carson Wentz, I know when he's healthy, he's going to be great. And I feel like in a 12-team league, I could just cut Wentz when he gets hurt and add a new quarterback and be perfectly fine with it. So after we drafted Carson Wentz, Sammy Watkins came off the board, followed by Noah Fant, Boston Scott, Alan Lazard, Matty Snapback, Chris Herndon, Adrian Peterson, and Damian Harris. With AP in Detroit, I don't think I'm going to draft him. Not drafting Kerryon. DeAndre Swift's the only guy I'm taking. But what this tells me is that Swift's probably missing week 1. Now we're going to snag a running back. Going to go ahead and snag handcuff of Kenyon Drake, Chase Edmonds. Wasn't really much available unless you want to go ahead and take Bryce Love. That's the only other running back I probably would have taken at that pick. So now we need a defense and a kicker. I will name off the rest of the guys that have been picked, though. A huge tight end run, though, inside of the 14th round. You don't need a backup tight end or quarterback. So after we went with Chase Edmonds, Justin Jackson came out the board, followed by N'Keal Harry, Keshawn Vaughn, A.J. Dillon, LaShawn McCoy. 2 worthless picks there of Vaughn and McCoy, the guys who are not going to get the ball at all in Tampa Bay. And then we see Devontae Freeman, and then, who's not even on a team yet, might sign to Jacksonville, Paris Campbell, Devine Ozigbo, TJ Hawkinson, Austin Hooper, Mike Gesicki, Cam Newton, Jack Doyle, and Carlos Hyde. So now we're going to go ahead and snag our kicker and get Justin Tucker the fucker or Harrison Butker the fucker, both the fuckers later in the draft. I'm going to go with Harrison Butker, got him as my 101 kicker. But, I mean, any of those guys could be the 101. It could be, I'd say probably him, Justin Tucker, Kyami Fairbairn, Will Lutz, all probably the guys that could finish as the number 1 kicker. And now we need to get a defense, but we will look ahead back here. Notable picks, Danny Dimes. The rest are kicker and defense, so we're going to snag our defense. So what you want to do week 1, scavenge for a defense that's playing an opponent that you think might struggle week 1. The Chargers I like a lot against Joe Burrow week 1, but I do have Mixon. I do have Tyler Boyd, so I'm not trying to start my defense against those guys. So I think I'm going to go with the Titans here, going up against the Denver Broncos, but I also kind of like the other team, the Broncos, going up against the Tennessee Titans. So I think those could be both good starts in that game. So we got an A- for this team, but to me, it's an A+. It's always A1, like the steak sauce, like your balls after you use Manscaped, code Notorious to check out. So here, our roster is quarterback Carson Wentz. Our running backs are Joe Mixon and Alvin Kamara. Our wide receivers are DJ Moore and Stefan Diggs. Our flex is Jonathan Taylor. Our defense is the Tennessee Titans. Our kicker is Harrison Butker, and our bench is comprised of Tyler, Boyd, James White, Antonio Gibson, Mecole Hardman, Jalen Reagor, and Chase Edmonds. So thank you guys all for watching this video. Again, if you did enjoy, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure to check out Manscaped. Check out my draft guide if you still need it, as well as the content that's going to be on Patreon all season long. I love you all, and I'll see you guys later. I love you all. Good luck in your drafts tonight. Have a great day. Stay safe. Goodbye.